During an argument with my husband, he said to me, "You have never seen me as competent." I didn't respond in that moment, not because I didn't have the words, but because something in me knew. I needed to sit with it, to actually see him. Was this true? Not just from his lens, but from my own? Had I really at some deep level distrusted his competence? And if so, why? As I peeled back the layers, I found something I never expected. A subconscious wound that didn't belong to just me. It belonged to generations of women before me. It belonged to Eve. It belonged to the feminine herself. And that's when I had the revelation that changed everything. For generations, the fall has been framed as the fault of the feminine. Eve bit the fruit first, thus the blame has been rested upon her. But this perspective is not only incomplete, it's deeply flawed. Let's break it down. God's instruction was given to Adam. Genesis 2:16 through 17 states, "And the Lord God commanded the man, saying, You may freely eat of every tree of the garden, but of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil you shall not eat." Eve was not yet formed when this command was given. She wasn't present when God gave Adam this responsibility. She was taken from his side later in Genesis 2:22. Eve was deceived, but Adam chose to eat. 1 Timothy 2:14 states, "And Adam was not deceived, but the woman being deceived was in the transgression." Eve didn't fully understand. Adam did. Adam was held accountable because he knowingly chose to partake. So let's ask the question no one wants to. Why didn't Adam stop her? He was the one given the word. He was the one entrusted with the instruction. When Eve brought the fruit to Adam, why did he simply take it without a word? If Adam was given direct instruction from God, then it was his role as the masculine covering to instruct, guide, and protect Eve in that divine order. Eve did not willfully sin. She sinned ignorantly. Adam, on the other hand, sinned willingly. When Eve ate and then handed the fruit to Adam, he did not redirect her. He followed her instead of leading her. Adam did what many men have continued to do throughout history: abdicated responsibility. Rather than standing in his masculine role of protection and wisdom, he passively participated in what he knew was misaligned. And so we see the seeds of resentment begin to take root in the feminine. For thousands of years, the feminine has been blamed for the fall. But beneath that, there is something even deeper at play. A subconscious resentment towards the masculine for failing to fulfill his role as protector and leader. Think about it. Eve was not given the original instruction. She was not taught divine law by God. Adam was. Yet when she unknowingly transgressed, he did nothing to correct, shield, or guide her. Instead of standing firm in the wisdom he had been given, he let her lead and followed her into disobedience. This is where the core of the feminine's distrust was born. The feminine has spent generations feeling unprotected by the masculine, left to navigate alone what she was never meant to carry alone. And in the depths of the feminine psyche, there is this unspoken wound. Why didn't you stop me? Why didn't you lead when you were supposed to? Why did you follow instead of protect? Why am I the one blamed when you had the knowledge all along? This is why so many women today feel like they must do everything themselves. Why they don't fully trust men to lead them. Why they have learned to take control because somewhere deep inside they believe they are alone in carrying the weight of responsibility. The consequence of this is profound. Women, generation after generation, have felt this innate disappointment in the masculine. The sense that men are not fully capable, not fully competent, not fully able to hold divine order. And because the feminine is the life giver, the bridge between spirit and matter, she cannot help but feel the weight of a partner who is not standing in his true divine power. This is what has bred the subconscious belief that if the feminine does not take charge, everything will fall apart. This is where the distortions of control, hyper-independence, and resentment are born. And this has played out for thousands of years. The blame on Eve became a justification for the oppression of women. The avoidance of Adam became a justification for male detachment and irresponsibility. And yet, true divine order calls them back into union. Because of this original dynamic, the masculine and feminine have been locked in a cycle of distortion. The masculine, feeling blamed and unworthy, often defaults to avoidance, passivity, and abandonment. The feminine, feeling unprotected and betrayed, compensates by taking control, distrusting men, and carrying burdens she was never meant to. This is why many men today struggle with indecision, lack of leadership, and avoidance of responsibility. Many women today struggle with hyper-independence, control issues, and the inability to surrender. This cycle has played out for generations, and it exists even now in modern relationships, parental dynamics, and the battle of the sexes. But it was never meant to be this way. Jesus came to restore what was lost. This is why Christ came. Jesus, as the second Adam, restores the masculine order that was lost. He does not passively stand by. He does not abandon his responsibility. He does not blame. Instead, he lays down his life for his bride. He washes her with his word. He leads her with wisdom and protection. And in this redemption, the feminine is also healed, no longer unprotected, no longer left to carry what was never hers. Instead, she is honored, she is covered, she is empowered to rest in divine trust rather than distorted resentment. To heal this divide, we must recognize where it began. We must call the masculine back into responsibility, wisdom, and covering, not avoidance. We must call the feminine back into trust, surrender, and divine intuition, not control. Because it was never about blame. It was about restoration. And this is the path back to Eden. Be loved and be loved, beloved.